Hey, visionaries. This is Shalita, the nonprofit Easter O'Neill. And my mission is to help business owners, community organizers, and influencers to launch or revitalize nonprofit organizations that will help rebuild their communities. So thank you so much for joining us today for the hashtag nonprofit no filter discussion on branding your nonprofit. Can't wait to introduce you to our special guest. You'll be able to ask questions in the comment box. So if you go ahead and hold on a second. Hey, visionaries, this is Shalita, the nonprofit Easter O'Neill. My mission is to help business owners, influencers, and community organizers launch and revitalize nonprofit organizations that will rebuild their communities. I had to say that again because they said it was an error. Okay, so you can hear it. I want to thank you for joining us. Hashtag nonprofit no filter discussion. We're going to be talking about branding your nonprofit. Again, if you have any questions or comments, just make sure you put it in the comment box. I'm going to hop over there and take a look. I'll make sure that I ask our guests. I'll also allot some time, about 15 minutes at the end, to be able to ask additional questions, whether it has to do with branding or not. So without further ado, it is my honor to introduce to you Carmen CB Fletcher. First off, Carmen is a versatile creative professional. She's an author, a blogger, a ghostwriter, a journalist, a publicist, a social media manager, and honestly, she is the artistic genius behind a lot of my nonprofit and business branding. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to Carmen. Thank you so much for joining us, CV.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I can't wait to see the questions.
Oh, yeah, they're going to be good. So first off, a lot of people don't really know how to brand, what it is, what to do about it. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what is a brand and why is it so important?
Okay, so a brand is your story. That's the main thing. You're selling your story. And I learned this a long time ago when I was probably in college, and they said, what is the why? Why are they buying from you? And they gave a stupid example, like, why do you buy Coca-Cola? I'm like, because it keeps me up at night and I'm studying. It didn't have anything to do with the Bears. But when it comes to something like a nonprofit, then people want to know who is running the nonprofit. What's the impact of the nonprofit? Who are they serving? And more importantly, why are they serving them? You don't want to run a nonprofit, let's say for something people care about, puppies. You don't want to run that if you never owned a dog.
Right.
So branding is all about selling your story. So let's say, for example, Felicia Wilson. She is a former foster care youth, and that's who she works with now. But her story is very intricate. Mm-hmm. And it's something I've never heard before, like 63 different foster homes. I've never heard of that before, but that's part of her story. And because she has come through all of that, her brand is you can make it.
Yeah.
And if she didn't have that story to live off of, then why is she having this organization? Just to have it?
Right.
So the whole point of a brand is just to sell your story because it's significant.
Absolutely. So when we talk about selling our story, like some people are like, I don't even know what to tell about my story. There are some people who are really guarded because, it's like, okay, the nonprofit, this is my work and I don't want to give too much into who I am for different reasons. What would you tell people? Like what parts, how should they even craft their own story?
So that's a wonderful question, by the way. So I understand that. You don't want to give all the story up front because then no one would be interested to dig deeper. Mm-hmm. And it can come out through the programs that are offered. It can come out through the social media, what it means to you. But it's really great to have those different little nuggets so that way if you have a speaking opportunity, then you can bring all of that out. Of course, you're not going to give everything in a bio, but it can be seen throughout your organization. So you don't necessarily have to be guarded, just pick and choose what part of your story you want to use to sell. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. Yeah.
Instead of just saying, hey, here's everything, and I went through this, I've been through prison, I've had this, that, and the third. Well, you can touch on that, but if you have a program for prison, you can connect and say this, our founder, XYZ, and not go into detail unless someone asks. So that's a way to kind of cover it and show it at the same time.
Absolutely. And I found it's helpful too that you know who your audience is. Yes. Because then that's going to determine what part of your story that you share and then how you share it as well. Even if you're talking about if you're going to be a speaker, a keynote speaker, it's going to really depend on who you're talking to, what you share and how you share it. It's the same thing with your website and all of your other branding. So Carmen, what's some branding do's and don'ts? What are some things that you've seen and you're like, ooh, I love it. And then other things you're like, what shouldn't they be doing up in here? Okay.
So let's start with the don'ts.
Okay.
Because we stick out more. And I've seen, fortunately, this has never been one of my clients, but I have seen this with other people.
Okay.
Do not post obscene photos. If you are the head of an organization or a company, or you yourself are the brand, do not post obscene photos. And by obscene photos, I don't mean you're out drinking with your friends. I don't mean that. I mean, you look like Megan Thee Stallion and,
Wait a minute. Unless that's your brand, right?
Unless
that's your brand.
Unless that's your brand. But
we're talking about nonprofit too, so you don't want to do that.
Nonprofits, it's not going to work. That's a big don't. Another don't is, I don't know how to put this. I guess you say your verbal branding, like when you're speaking to people, you become very passionate. Like right now, we're in a crisis situation in this country.
Absolutely.
And if this has nothing to do with your brand and you are in a business or nonprofit setting, you're networking, unless it's a conversation that is being had by everyone, don't say, well, Black Lives Matter because da 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 da. It could be Black Lives Matter because this is what has been happening for some time. Be calm in your approach, but don't go in there guns blazing. Don't do that, because people pay attention to what you say and how you say it. Another big branding don't make promises you can't keep. Don't do it. If you put out there that you can provide XYZ service, but you don't have the funding,
right,
or you don't have the partners to back it up, don't do it. Wait until it is prepared. So those are like some 3 major don'ts that I have seen, and thankfully this has not been a situation with any of the people I work with. Some branding do's: be vulnerable. So as we were talking about in the last question, it's okay to tell your story. It's also okay to tell the story of the people on your staff.
Right.
With a nonprofit, people want to know who's doing the work, who is out here, who's going to be interacting with our children, our communities, what have you. So be vulnerable, be tactical, but vulnerable. So that's a big branding do.
Be tactical, tactical and vulnerable.
And vulnerable at the same
time. Okay.
Yes. The second thing, crap, I forgot what I was going to say.
That's all right. When you're a branding guru, you got so much in your mind.
Right. But
while you're thinking of that, though, because one thing that what you've been saying is really important, because branding isn't just, from what I'm hearing from you, it's not just about website or logo.
No.
You are the brand, especially if you're a founder and you're starting up your organization. Also, if you are stepping into an executive director's role or CEO's role, you as the head of the organization is the brand. So whether you are on social media or whether you're out in the community or whatever the case may be, you yourself, what you represent has to also be in line with what your organization is representing.
Exactly. And that's hard to do when you're just trying to live your life. But again, just don't post any obscene photos.
Right.
Okay. That's the big thing. But so as far as a branding do, take creative risk. That's what I was going to say. I'm glad you said websites. This is what you about it. So one of the things that I do with my clients, I see where they're located and I see how the culture is and how that culture can be reflected on the website or through their logo or through their post. Because to me, having just okay, let's put blank colors, let's do this, and you're not a blank organization or you're not a blank individual, have some pop, have some colors, take those risks. Now, of course, there's a way to do this with tact. You know, you don't want to be overwhelming.
Right.
So,
just want to put that up there. We got some folks that are commenting. Yeah.
So you don't want to be overwhelming. You know, like for example, I did a website for a fraternal organization, and they're very old school, and we're just going to have a white page. And I said, no, not for community outreach. So what I ended up doing was, and it was what I call a heavy website. And what I mean by heavy is that there's so much color on there, but it needed to be, because one, it was geared towards men. So it needed to have like that heavy look, but also that community look. So I ended up making this beautiful collage that was on the home page, and they loved it. And they loved that it was kind of throughout the website and it was easy to navigate and all those things. But that spoke to the culture of not only who they were and where they were located, but also about who they were serving. And you don't want to be afraid of how you want to show who you are. You're telling your story. You are telling your organization's story. You're telling your city's story, your community's story. That's what you want to show. So don't be afraid to take those risks. Don't say like, oh, it has to look completely pristine and look like a fashion website unless that's your target market. No, it doesn't. It needs to reflect who you are, and it needs to reflect the people that you're serving. So another, let me see, one more branding do. I'm trying to figure out how to word this.
Okay. It's hashtag nonprofit no filter, y'all. So come on now. We're not gonna give you no filter with it. No change.
Another thing we do is don't be afraid to talk about your work. It doesn't matter, and this is something that I've had to do personally because, you know, I do everything. And I hated it when people would ask me, what do you do for a living? I go, I do this,
everything.
You know, and then they'll look at you like you're crazy. That's okay. That's okay, because it's the nut jobs that decide that they're going to get something done that actually get it done. So don't be afraid to say, oh, yes, I work in the community doing XYZ. I do have a 9-to-5, but my organization does this. Be your own publicist. You can hire a branding strategist. You can hire an actual publicist, social media, but you are your own publicist. You are your own social media manager. You are your own website creator. But everybody wants to either steal my vision or they don't believe. Well,
what do you think about that? Yeah. Thanks, Monique.
Thank you for that comment. To that, I say be fearless. So I mentioned earlier, I talked about Felicia Wilson, who is a former
She's on. Hey, Felicia.
She's a former foster youth, but so is our lovely host here. So is Jamal Callahan. So is Christian Benjamin. And you know what? All of their stories are completely different. All of their outcomes are completely different. But the two things that they all have in common are that they were all in foster care and they are all now badass people. It doesn't matter what your vision is. Someone may have another version of it. That's okay. Do you. Shine within your own space.
And I say, Monique, you know, piggybacking off of what Carmen said, nobody is you. Nobody, you know, no one can steal anything from you that was given to you by God, the creator, you know, in your own spirit and your own heart. And there's nothing new under the sun. I tell folks that it really isn't, but it's how you do it. somebody else could be trying to do the exact same thing. And especially when it's not coming from a place of love or a place of that's really what they were trying to do, it's never successful. So when you're doing your work, don't come at it from the fear aspect of I'm afraid of somebody's going to take my vision or somebody's going to, no. You just do what you've been called to do and everything will fall into place.
And Monique, just another point. Let me tell you something. I'm always scared. I am always scared. Okay. Because every project that I get, I know that I'm handling someone's baby and I don't want to screw it up.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that they want and everything that I want for them and everything else I want for myself to grow as an individual as well as a professional is on the other side of that fear. And it's okay to be scared.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, bro. It's okay to be scared because it keeps you humble.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you humble to say, like, okay, I can't screw this up. But if I do, I'm going to learn something. And that is with your organization, with yourself, with your ideas, whatever it may be. Because I mean, we've had some pretty wild ideas, and like Shawnta will call me and I'll go, it's like, okay, but we get it done. So don't be afraid of any of those things. Everything that you want is on the other side of fear.
There you go. And I also have a couple of, and Monique also said, and I, put this up here too. You've been following me for 3 years, Monique. Okay, now don't you make me blush up on here, but it might be time for us to connect one-on-one to kind of, for me to look at what is your messaging, how your mission, vision, that sort of thing. And how are you communicating that? If you're having issues getting a board member, there's some work that we got to look at, how do we get to this point? And what are you saying? So I would invite you to schedule some time for us to be able to look at that one-on-one, but don't be discouraged. Okay.
Right. Don't be discouraged, but also look at who you're asking to be a board member. This I have seen with my clients where people will jump on, yes, I want to be a part of the board, but they want to be a part of the board because it looks good on their resume. You need to find people that want to do the work. So.
Absolutely. No, I know. Look, this is hashtag nonprofit no filter. Things will come up. We're here. Y'all want to know some things? We're going to talk about it. But I also want to make sure I'm going through the comments too, because I saw, okay, so here we are. So Shay, hey Shay. So speaking on handling being overwhelmed. So I'm going to make sure that we do talk about that towards the end. We're going to get through a little bit more of the branding conversation. But I got something for you. So about that. So hold on with that. And board members. So we'll talk about that, Shay, in a second. But I want us to also get a little bit more insight into. You gave us a little bit on how you work with your clients. But walk us a little bit through, like, how do you actually help visionaries build their brand? What is it looking like?
So I ask a lot of questions. My background is in writing and journalism. So I take that approach. And one way or fashion, I'll ask, what's your story? And I ask what the story is, so that way I can connect that to the brand. And then I ask what colors, what are some important shapes to you, or figures, or what have you? What are some other brands that you've seen that you do like? And it's not to imitate them, it's to get inspiration and build upon it. So within that process, it can get a little bit tricky because sometimes people do not know what they want. And they want you to tell them what they want. And then when you tell them what they want, then they say, no, that's not what I want. So my best advice is to do a little bit of research, see what you like. And so when you come to someone like me or anyone else for branding, you can say, well, these are some things that I like. These are some things I don't like that I saw you might be interested in, but I don't like. Okay. And then what is your story? Because if you come to me or anyone else saying that, okay, so I had this wonderful idea, I want to open a restaurant. Okay, cool. But what's it for? It's an Italian food. Okay. What else? And if they just say that, it's like, well, that's great. But when we put this in the paper, are they going to say, or online or Instagram or what have you, Are you going to have pictures of food? Are you going to have pictures of your staff? Are you going to have pictures about the chefs that are going to be there? Like, what is the story here with everyone that is a part of this small business? And I think that's difficult for people to really think about, because they're like, hey, great idea, let's make some money. But the value that is within a business or an organization is the story. So that's why when I speak with my clients, like, okay, so tell me a little bit about your organization, about yourself. And I've met some incredible people with incredible stories. And whether or not it worked out, I heard an incredible story, and I know that they're going to go through and do wonderful, wonderful things, because that is the center of the whole organization. And also when I'm working with my clients, if they say, I'm scatterbrained, I know someone was talking about being overwhelmed, like, I'm scatterbrained, I don't know what to do, I can't think about this. I say, okay, this whole thing doesn't go unless you're ready for it. Because if someone is preparing all of these things for you, and then all of a sudden you're like, I can't deal with this, I can't do it, well, then that loses the connection. We can't launch without the leader. That's not going to happen. So you have any other questions as far as like the process of how that works?
Yeah. Well, and also what to expect, because like you said, a lot of people come to you and they don't even know what they need or what they want. You know, or what to expect, or how many revisions does something take, or what's, you know, reasonable. As a client coming to you, you know, what is your ideal client?
My ideal client?
Yeah, that might be two separate questions, but ideal client, and then what can they expect from the process?
So,
creative
process. It depends on what they're getting. If they're getting a logo, that could be, let's have a conversation. Do you want something simple? And that's where like the samples of what you do, like and colors and all of that, like what shapes and things are significant to you. Like I most recently redid my logo. I did 5 different versions of it. When I do my clients' logos, I do 14 before I present one.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so there's that process. With a website, the first thing I do is lay it out, because you want people to be able to easily navigate through your website. So that's the first thing. And then like, let's talk about the colors. Let's talk about the visuals. Let's put these different things together. Do you want an urban feel? And I've done very urban websites, but I've also done very business side websites, and one that was kind of in between. It was Services for Success, where it was very military, but also urban at the same time, which was really great. And to blend those two types of cultures. And so as far as revisions on logos, it shouldn't be more than 3. And I'll tell you why. 1, it halts a process of moving forward. 2, between those 3 different versions, there have been about 14 or 15 other versions of that one logo that has been created. So one of them, after several discussions and moving through it, should be good. Okay, as far as websites, you know, I check in with my clients either weekly or bi-weekly, depending on the project. We can go in, you can look and see like, hey, I do like this, I don't like this, let's change this. Be very active. Don't be afraid to say no, but also don't say, well, I don't like this, but not give any guidance to what you want. That's not productive for anybody, because if you have to just pull it out of your hat, like, oh, I hope that this is going to work, and then it doesn't, you'll be doing revisions for the rest of your life. So,
and another thing too is responsiveness, right? Like, so if you're working, you know, and this is helpful to know, because as someone who, you know, sometimes as being a client or a customer, you feel like, you know, you're always right, or you know everything. And when you are reaching out to a professional to do something that you don't have expertise in, there's a level of humility there. You know, of course, you know, you expect to have things, you know, to have your branding done, or whatever service that you're paying for, and you know, professionally, but at the same time, you have to also mirror that professionalism that you want to see, and be responsive, you know, as well.
I like that.
Yeah. So with that being said, what should individuals, that are looking for branding professionals to hire a branding professional, what should they look for in a branding professional? Like to know, how do you
As far as skill
choose?
set,
Hmm?
as far as skill set, or
Yeah, skill
just in
set, or
general?
like in general too. Skill set in general. What if I'm looking for a branding professional? I mean, I'm not, because I already got one. There you go, CB right there. But if I were, what should
Mhm.
I? There's so many, people out here is saturated. The market. What do I look for?
Number one thing you want to look for: can I connect with this person?
Hmm.
This person is going to be handling your baby.
Hmm.
So if the conversation is going something like, well, I've worked for this person and that person and that person, it's not a good person to work with, only because they think that they're that great that whatever they say is law, and they will not listen to what you want or what you need within your vision. So that's something to avoid. But
Hmm.
if you are coming to someone, like say you're coming to me, like I said, I ask about the story, I'll talk to you. I want to get to know you. Sometimes my consultations end up going for 2 hours because I'm just talking to them about who they are. And that's, as far as nonprofits go, you want someone who's going to be able to do that, that you can connect with. And, you may not be able to connect with someone like me, and that's okay. But you have to also be able to find that happy marriage between who you are as a person. Oh, let me talk about the credit site I
Hmm.
use Fiverr for. Oh, wow.
So yeah.
Okay, we'll get to that in 1 second,
Yeah.
Shay.
Okay. I just wanted to show
Um,
you. Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I can go ahead and segue into that as far
Hmm.
as doing stuff through Fiverr. Fiverr is not a bad thing. However, you get what you pay for.
Hmm.
Get what you pay for. So if you pay $20 for a logo, you're more than likely getting one version. And if you don't like it, tough, they have taken the money.
Hmm.
Okay. But now, if you need something quick, you need someone to do a quick update on the website, or maybe do the copy for the website or something like that, that's fine. Do your research.
Hmm.
Do your research and see how you're going to connect with someone. Typically on creative agencies, they have a list of, you have the CEO, and then you have a list of all the people that work there. They have short little bios, and they're usually really cute about it. See who you connect with, because if you don't have that connection, the project is not going to go well. And then as far as using stuff like Fiverr, or trying to create some things on your own, which I'll talk about as well, like I said, that's okay. That's not a bad thing. But just be cautious, because now that something's on the black web, it's like you don't want that.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that your site is secure and it's been going through the proper channels and all of those things. So that's something to look for. But as far as like, if you want to start to get things going for yourself, I would advise getting a Canva account, playing around with the colors. That's actually very helpful. If you're coming to a branding person saying like, hey,
So
I like
Canva.
these colors. Yes.
Canva. Okay. I'm gonna type that here in the box. So if
anyone needs it. But Canva, anything in the Adobe suite, especially Adobe Spark, that's very easy to manage, and it's inexpensive. So is Canva. Canva is inexpensive, and you can really get a see, touch, feel of how things can go. Or I wouldn't recommend mocking up your own logo, but if you absolutely want to, you could. You could, just to say like, hey, can you make this prettier? Sure. Because it gives a clear path of what you want. So using Canva, let me see, what's another one? Adobe Illustrator, if you're feeling really fancy about it. Let's see, what else?
And I would also say too that you have to also be careful about the logo piece, and because I think because Monique, I think you said you bought your logos online, and they gave you 6 versions for under $100. That is very rare. But I would also want to see who else has that logo, because when you pay that type of money for a logo, or that more than likely there's somebody else somewhere that has a very similar version of it. You want to know like where folks are getting, because honestly, like CB was saying, there are websites where you can go to and create your own logo creator and this and that, but understand that so as everybody else knows about that too. And if your brand is really about your niche, how are you different? Like, how are you truly different? What makes you stand out as an individual, through your organization, through the work that you're doing? How are you different? And you really got to, portray that in every aspect. So, and you get what you pay for. And I'd also say, what I tell my clients too is, okay, there might be somebody in the church you go to that was like, oh, I do a logo for you. Or somebody down the street, oh, I got that. I put that for you. I did a logo for, somebody a couple of days ago, Okay, wonderful. But can you see a portfolio? Like, can you reach out to people who have already have previous clients of that branding expert? It's just something that they do, not something that you play around with. I don't play around with my brand. I don't want if I'm going to invest in other things, and that's the thing, we invest in other things that don't give us a return on our investment so quickly. We'll pour hundreds and hundreds of dollars into senseless things. But when it comes to your brand, don't skimp on it. Don't play around with it, because that's your first impression to the world. People who see that, that's going to be the decision as to whether or not they tell all their friends and family and their network about you, or whether they keep you hidden in the corner and they give you a few dollars because they feel sorry for you and they're embarrassed to share your information with other people. Hashtag nonprofit, no filter. So that's what I'm saying too, because a lot of times if we having issues recruiting people or getting people on board to help us with different things, how are you presenting the organization? How are you investing in it? And what is the message that you're sending to people who you're saying you want help from? Right. So all those are good questions, and we'll get a little bit more into the board member piece and to the messaging and in a second. But I just wanted to put that out there. CB. Any other let me see. And okay, so we have a question. So how can we check our logos for duplicates? Someone said they've seen yours. Yep. So honestly, if you've gotten your logo off of a website, like a version of a website, just rest assured that somebody else has some version of it.
Right.
Somewhere.
And it's not like the exact logo, it's probably the picture.
Yeah. Right.
And it's okay to go on those types of things, to at least say, hey, this is an idea of what I want. Can we build upon it? So yeah, of course someone else is going to have it because it was easy to put together. Same thing in Canva. They have a lot of pre-made logos, but you can alter them. You can alter them to be whatever you want it to be. And if that's what you need to do to mock it up, that's okay. But yeah, just buying something.
What do you mean by mock it up? Like, is it mocking it up for a branding professional to then?
Right. So if they say, I was looking for something with maybe some more circles on here, I like this, or maybe I want to have other colors, that helps to drive the conversation of what you want. Because, right, I know that it's really scary when you're looking at prices and things when it comes to logos and websites, but definitely pay the money. Adobe and others offer decent discounts for their products to nonprofits. Yep. That's correct.
Yeah,
that's correct. So
thank you for sharing that. Yeah,
you can most certainly get a whole Adobe suite. Or, if you have that and you want to have that as something that's in-house so you can continue to build upon your brand, that's wonderful. That is wonderful, especially if it's something that a branding professional can log into and just say, okay, here's the logo, or here are the colors that we're choosing. This is what I mocked up for a website background, and you have all of those things in-house. So that's actually something really wonderful to have for your organization.
Awesome. So are there any other resources? So we know, and what about some of the website, the templates? If even, you might be just needing to get started. I know I have done that in the past because I have like 11 organizations and things that I have going on. So initially, sometimes you got to start your website, and then you get a professional to come in and clean it up and fix the thing. But what are some of those platforms?
So the top 3 platforms that I've worked on are Squarespace, Wix, and WordPress, which is the bane of my existence. So
okay, so say Squarespace.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Squarespace, Wix, and WordPress. Here's the thing. With Squarespace, it's going to be a much smoother website. Like all of their templates are very chic. But with Wix, you can do whatever you want. You can create whatever you want in the background. Like, there are pros and cons to everything.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want a very heavy mobile friendly website, go on Wix. It's not that Squarespace doesn't have the mobile capacity, because they do. But with certain things, like on Wix, you can adjust the picture size if you want to. There's a cover thing that comes out if you want to, and it's like a nice introduction page. It's really pretty. With Squarespace, you can have that too, but you don't have as much freedom to move things around. So if you wanted to go in yourself and just say like, oh, well, let me fix this real quick, it's a little bit different. WordPress.
Oh, put that in there, WordPress.
And you can certainly, don't get me wrong, you can certainly build a website off of WordPress. I have done 1 or 2 WordPress sites. I used to run a website that was based on WordPress. But I don't know what happened in the last couple of years, but it just seemed like if you wanted to do anything special, and by anything special, I mean just put in a picture on a page, it has become some all over process of like, wait, no. Okay, I don't want that. Don't move that there. Why is there coding? So that's
but she still makes it look magical though. So, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. But if you want to just build something like real quick, real fast, WordPress is the way to go. But if you want to at least get the bones set up yourself and say like, these are the colors I was thinking, Squarespace or Wix, that's your best bet.
Okay.
And then for, let's see, if you're doing video, if you have anything Adobe, use it. Use it. Whether that is Adobe Spark, where you can make social media videos, or using stuff like Premiere. If you know Premiere, which is like brain surgery, by the way. Just putting there are a few other video things that they have as well. I use WeVideo sometimes, which is a Google-based platform. You don't have as much creative leeway with WeVideo. Like some of the really cool things that you could see on something that's made in Adobe, like the effects and whatnot, they don't have that on WeVideo. But if you want to do something that's really quick, or you just want to put some things together, put some music together, what have you, WeVideo is the way to go. But Premiere is standard. That is industry standard, of course. But like I said, it's brain surgery. Just to look at it with brain surgery.
And that's when you get a branding professional to come in and do it for you.
Get a film professional, because I'm just full transparency. I work with someone incredible, Kay Hickman. He does all of my videos. She does all of the editing. I can do a lot of edits as far as like, okay, let's get this music in here. Let's, move these clips around, things like that. I could do all of that, but she can make it look cinematic. Why? Because she knows how to work on the brain surgery that is Premiere. So, if you don't hire like a branding professional, make sure when you do your videos, especially if it's like an About Us video or something like that, hire a pro, pay the money. And also make sure that all of the equipment is working as well. I had a very unfortunate circumstance where I thought everything was fine, and the microphone that I was using, it either picked up some feedback or something like that, and all of the audio was ruined. You want to talk about pissed? Check your equipment. And that was the crazy part, was that we checked the equipment and it was fine but during the filming,
that's the thing about video, it could be, unpredictable. Very unpredictable. But yeah, as far as the you shared a lot of different resources. Thank you. And I use all of them. So, they are low cost. What's the other one? So
the other one is if you have it in your budget, use Meet Edgar for your social media because it creates a library of content and it'll just keep sharing content whenever you want it to come out. However, if you want to keep it low budget but high quality, Hootsuite, Later.com, or Buffer are all wonderful things as far as trying to put stuff on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat. The only thing it doesn't connect to is TikTok, which is really huge right now. I also advise, if you would like to have a TikTok account, just learn how to use it. Just look at a few other videos, especially if you're talking about your brand or your organization or who you are as an individual. I have seen history lessons, 1-minute history lessons in these beautiful videos that are very good, very simple. And so that's another tool that you can most certainly use.
And I'm glad you brought up social media too, because when we're talking about branding, being able to know how to use each platform is really important. And something that I've just learned, recently too, is pretty much we all have different sides of our personality, and those different platforms, are sort of manifestations of the different types of personality. So if you are doing your YouTube is supposed to be about teaching. You're teaching, you're sharing something, education, informative, and your Facebook, is a little bit more about you being in the community and, maybe even sharing your family if it's relative or appropriate to the work that you do, or, kind of showing that side of what you're doing. And then the Instagram is supposed to be like boss
behind the scenes,
right?
Yeah.
Like behind the scenes, like this is, what's going on, and showing the glitz and glamour, of the work. So another wonderful branding professional shared that with me as well. I'm still learning those things. So be very careful or aware of how to use those different platforms to grow your brand as well. Okay, so we've got about 15 minutes left. I don't want Carmen to go anywhere just yet, because some of these questions, she wears many hats. So even if it's not a branding question, she can still also chime in. So I wanted to address one of the questions that one of my subscribers on YouTube asked, and it was unable to be on the live today. But she wanted to know, how do you balance a full-time work schedule and launching a nonprofit? Like, what experience have you had, or just some basic tips on how to not wear yourself down? And this sort of goes into what I wanted to speak on with Shay and Monique from earlier, is the purpose of starting a nonprofit, or not the purpose, but one of the perks of starting a nonprofit is that you're not doing it by yourself. This is not a solo LLC, sole proprietorship. You are supposed to have a group of people, and they don't have to be big. I tell my folks 5 to 7, strong individuals who are your board members. Like, they are supposed to be there to help you, especially if you're the founder of an organization and you're just getting things up and running. It's expected that they're going to be a little bit more hands-on with the programmatic piece. So your board members, if you're running a mentoring program or mentoring organization, it's okay to ask a board member or two to help you facilitate that. Maybe they are, leading the mentorship, or maybe they are helping you to develop partnerships in the community where you can get referrals for your program, or, things like that. So for me, I can completely relate to that, because I was working a full-time job at one point, for somebody else, and also running my nonprofit and my LLC. And that is what really, really helped me not to lose my mind, is to have people around you, build your tribe of people who you can rely on to help you with different aspects of that. And feeding into the board member piece, you have to vet folk. One, you have to know what your messaging is. You have to know what your vision is. And it's when I tell my clients, that I help engage board members. Before we get to the engaging board members part, I need to know what's your vision. Is it clear? Is it concise? What does it feed into your mission? When your mission, who are you serving? Why are you serving them? Where are you serving them? What do you want to do for them? What are your goals for the organization? What are you trying to do in the community? Are you trying to increase high school graduation rates, decrease incarceration rates? Like, what are you trying to do? Your programming should also speak to all those things. Okay, well, these are my goals. This is the mission. Your programming is, well, how am I going to reach those goals? Your goal should be, your programming should be right in line with that. And outcomes. What information are you collecting in order to know that what you're doing is working? Your measures of success and your budget. Do you have one? Do you know how much money you need to raise? Because if you're asking people to come on board and support you and you don't know those things, how are you going to communicate it to them? And then they're going to be like, oh, well, she don't know what she's talking about, or he don't know what they're talking about. So they're not quite ready right now. I can't get behind that because they don't know what's expected of them. They can't see the vision. So be very clear on, who you are, what brand you're putting forth, what you want your organization to do. And then you need to have a board member application. You need to apply. This isn't just come help me. No, we don't want that. No, you're doing something good. You need some strong people. Have a board member application, and typically, you put that on your website. So, and also with roles and expectations, how often are people going to be required to meet? What do you expect from them? How much money are they supposed to raise for you? That information should be on your website, and along with the application. And when people apply, they have to go through the application process. You have to interview them. And if you have board members, even if you got one that is really in tune or active, include them on, okay, well, let's meet with this person. Now with the COVID, virtual, let's set up a virtual meeting with them, to kind of see if they're a good fit. So there's a process that you have to go through. And even if you don't know, you may, a lot of people may say, well, I don't know a lot of people. I don't have a network. Well, once you are clear on your vision and what your organization is wanting to do, and you're clear on what type of person you want to engage, that's where it comes in with the branding, your social media. How are you building up your social media following so that when you make an announcement that I'm looking for board members, invite them to a meeting, whether that's virtual or in person, to learn more about you and your organization. Once you do that, that's how you get the word out, right? And so it may not be your immediate network, but somebody who knows you, who knows somebody, will share the information. Right. So I hope that was helpful around your board. What are your thoughts? Because CB, you've had to transition from, whether it's a nonprofit or for profit, when you're trying to do you're still you getting your money, you got to get paid the full time, but you got to plan and you're going to make a move. But then how do you do that?
So, I'm a storyteller, y'all. This is what I do for a living. So bear with me while I tell you this story. And it's something that I had to realize after going through it. You need to acknowledge the tribe that is within you. If you do not have all of your stuff together in here and up here, then nothing else is going to go. And what I mean by that is, so before I was doing my business full time, I was a receptionist, and there wasn't much for me to do except to answer my phone. So what I was doing was I had to be a receptionist, at least look like one, okay? And then I was building a website, or I was doing graphics, or I was doing accounting. Those are all members of the tribe. Or I was thinking about social media strategy, or I was doing the post. Those are all several different jobs, but it was all within me, on top of being in the front saying, hi to everybody, But I had to acknowledge that I had to be all of those people. Which is why now I am, shameless plug, expanding my company, because as of Friday, I am tired of being all of the tribe members.
There we go. At some point, y'all, you're going to have to build a tribe. And, hashtag nonprofit no filter. We will talk even more about that on other or future discussions, but about why we don't do that. What's the trust issue there? Like, we feel like it's easier for us to do it than to explain it to somebody else, and then to trust somebody else with the vision. And you get to a point where you got to get past that. Because you need the support. Now, we also have a question. Both Shay and Monique have similar questions around, funding for nonprofits given the COVID. And so I do know that I didn't apply for it for mine. I think today was supposed to be the June 30th is the deadline to apply for the PPP. You could have applied for your nonprofit as well for the loan. That a portion of it, depending on how much they give you, is supposed to be a grant, right? But what I say to people, because people are also like, well, is this a horrible time to start a nonprofit organization in the midst of COVID? And I want to say no. And now, first, you need to check and see what other organizations in the community might be doing something similar that you can partner with, because what we don't want is a whole bunch of new nonprofits out here that are doing the same or similar things and are trying to compete with each other. Collaboration, not competition. But if you do have an organization, or you do need to start one, because from the unrest and from all the other things that have happened, we are now seeing gaps in resources in our communities that no one was really aware of before. And you might need to start a nonprofit for that. What I say is we have to diversify or think differently about raising money. It's not all about grant dollars or writing proposals or grants, because yes, a lot of the foundations, the traditional foundations who are used to getting grant requests from people, are also feeling it. They are strapped. They've made promises financially to people, and they're unable to keep it. They're overtaxed. However, individuals, one thing that and that's why I always push with the board members, because they're the gatekeepers. Their networks of individuals are ones that really carry the nonprofit organizations as it pertains to donors, right? So almost 70% of money that comes into nonprofits, they come in from actual individuals, not the foundations or the large corporate foundations or anything like that. So going back to branding, what is the messaging? What's the need of your population right now? The unique need that maybe COVID has expressed, or revealed. I've seen people have done really creative things, like having virtual live streams on Zoom, fundraisers. They get creative about what do your population need, and then reaching out to individuals to help piece those things together. So, I would really say that think about the niche, think about what the need is, and then reach out to the board members who are also connected to other types of funding. You need to have a think tank. Y'all need to come together and have a planning session about how do we handle this. And if you are just doing it all by yourself, what I'm going to tell you is you need to go back and build your tribe. And if you need help with that, just reach out to me. You don't have to do it by yourself. Okay.
So wait, just to piggyback off of that, as far as, find your niche and figure out what you're going to do, have a plan. You need to have a virtual plan now and a live plan. So by virtual plan, what I mean is, like, I have a client, a Mother's Promise from Me to You, that they had to take their city walks virtual. Now, how they're going to do that is, frankly, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do that, but I just thought, okay, they're still going to offer mentoring, and they do that virtually. They're still going to offer one or two of their programs virtually. So you need to figure out what you could still offer virtually, and then what the live experience is, what the impact is. How are you going to do that virtually and live? So that's something else to really think about when you are building out your organization, because hopefully something like this never happens again, but it's better to prepare just in case. And so that's something else to think about as you're building. And of course you can launch nonprofits now. Yeah. I was floored that I still had time. As soon as it hit, I went,
and especially with the unrest and the protests and the community organizing that's happening, and that's another feeds back into my mission of helping individuals like that as well to start or revitalize nonprofit organizations, because now that you are we pump, we hype, things need to change. Okay, but then how are we going to make sure that continues? How do we create that as part of our legacy, that the change keeps happening? Well, maybe a nonprofit might be the way to go. So, all right, we just to wrap it up, y'all, thank you for joining us on really, I've been doing these discussions in a different way off and on, for the past couple of years, but this is really a new way of doing it and making sure I'm bringing, we got all this technology now. So I want to make sure that y'all continue to tune in with us every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, hashtag nonprofit, no filter discussion. And I want to also make sure that if you need any support, with your branding, you want an initial consultation with someone who knows what they're talking about, who is a creative genius, CB Fletcher. This is her website, cbfletchercreates.com. Please reach out to her. If you need one-on-one coaching with me, okay, now come on through to ShalitaO'Neal.com. But also I have membership too. So hashtag nonprofit, no filter membership. Go on my website, see what that means. It gives you access to templates. I also have online courses that it gives you access to if you're trying to figure out, where do I start? I also, for the Build It membership level, you get one-on-one time with me, 30 minutes every month. So you go on and take a look, regardless of what your pockets look like or what kind of coins you got, I can still help. So there's no excuse for you to be trying to do things on your own. Okay. All right. And make sure, because this is both streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen, y'all, subscribe, like, share, follow me on Facebook, all of those things so that you can get notifications on when we are going to be back on here again. And hold on, put another one, y'all. Just make sure you follow me everywhere. I'm on IG at the Nonprofit Easter. So join us next Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to have another special guest. Her name is Christine Dunkerton, and she is the Executive Director of Community Law Center here in Maryland. So if you have any questions, legal questions around compliance, your 990s, oops, you forgot, or there's some sort of contract that you need to go into, you're not quite sure, how this should look, y'all bring y'all questions. We're going to have Miss Christine on here next week, all right? But until then, y'all be real, have fun, and get those results. Thanks, CB, for joining us.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.